Hello everyone and welcome to John Drinks, the channel where I, John, have a drink. And this is going to be the second video in a row where I'm not actually going to be drinking anything. This is a sequel to last week's, well, technically the week's before's, video about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. Because, well, there was a bit of a reaction to it, basically, and people were quite keen to sort of see basically my input on it. So I thought I would sort of follow that up. Now that voting has closed, as of midnight, it now seemed a good time to kind of go over what I put forward. I didn't want to do this whilst voting was still open, just on the off chance of skewing anything. I'm not saying it was likely. Roy over at Aquavitae did even say he doesn't mind people discussing this, but I didn't think it was fair. So I've held off doing it until now. So I should quickly kind of talk about sort of my role in this. Relatively small for its own part. It's basically the equivalent of filling out a form, which I have here on my phone, and I'm going to be reading, not verbatim to you because there's a lot of words. There's a lot that's gone into the planning process of this. Also, one thing I have noticed about Roy, he loves himself a Google form, quite rightly so. It's a very useful tool, actually. I'm going to have to start using it myself. But basically, how to think of this is, I think I went into this a little bit in the last video. You know how, like, you had the Justice League cartoons in, like, the noughties, and you had, like, the core members, and they were, like, the main, the founder Justice League, and that ran for, like, 3 series. And then they had a series called Justice League Unlimited, where just all hell broke loose, and any superhero in the DC canon joined up with the Justice League, and you had, like, literal swaths of heroes at some point, like, some that you've never heard of in your entire life, that they were like, hey, we're never going to make a series out of this, but here's a chance to show these guys in this universe. Well, I was kind of like that, basically. I wasn't the core member. I was the random kind of background heroes, like, was Scarlet Witch one of them? I can't even remember any of them. There was the Atom, the guy who shrank. He was one of them. There's also some just random cowboy dude, and his entire thing was just he shot guns. I don't know if he was like Republican man or what his deal was, but I just remember him being a thing. Did he have a horse? He was just a cowboy. He wasn't a superhero at all. He was just a gun-happy cowboy. He was just a member of the NRA. Anyway, that's off topic entirely. Basically, the core members from last year sort of put forward what they would put in each category, and then us newbies, if you want to put it that way, basically got that list and sort of narrowed it down. So you could pick the same one like 3 times if you wanted to just like have that as your one pick. I don't really know why you would do that, but you could have done that. Or you could pick 3 individual things, or you could pick 2 and put your own one forward as well. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here, kind of what I put forward in sort of the shortlisting phase, and also some of the ones that I put forward myself that I thought deserved a shout out. I will quickly say now, none of the ones that I put forward as special considerations, or the people's choice for want of a better way of putting it, made it through, basically, because I didn't expect they would. They were very niche picks, but I do want to share them with you now because I think they're all whiskies that do deserve more of a look, and this has already been discussed. Roy, during one of his live streams recently, did talk about the ones that didn't make it, and he made a very good case for some really fantastic whiskies. Ben Romack really got quite a hard hand dealt to it this time. So yeah, looking forward to kind of seeing them perform better this year. Now, on the subject of that live stream as well, you're probably all expecting a particular name to come up at least once in these, so you'll have to wait till the end of the video to... Oh, I'm a dickhead. Yeah, we shall see if that name comes up. I would also like to hear, like, as I'm going along, like, if there are any ones that you would like to have put forward for particular categories, do let me know in the comments down below. Now I'm done being a shill, we will get started with my picks for the best value whiskey of 2022. Oh, I've just moved the camera using my microphone wire. Hopefully that's not knocked everything out of whack too much. It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's probably fine, hopefully. Cool, so the 3 votes that I put forward for the Glenallachie 12, 46%, Glencadam 10-year-old, 46%, and the Lachuk 10, 46.3. No real surprises there. I don't think anyone's particularly shocked that I put those 3 forward. They're 3 whiskies that I've been very vocally a big fan of, so I don't think that's to anyone's surprise or shock. Next, however, the best blended whisky of 2022, and my picks were the Antiquary 12-year-old, 40%. Might be a little surprised to see a 40% in there. I've had some encounters with the Antiquary 12 recently, and I think it's fantastic stuff just as a sipper. I think it stands up. It would be incredible to see it at a higher, like, you know, but there's always that discussion whenever it's a 40% or a 43. It's like, oh, it'd be great to see it at a 46 or caster it and all the rest of it. And yes, of course it would, but the fact that it stands up that well at that delivery, it says a lot, I think. Next we have the White Heather 15-year-old. Again, probably not a surprise to anybody. It's basically a Glenallachie blend, for want of a better way of putting it. And then my third pick was adding my own entry. So this is the first one where I put my own 2 pence in. And this is actually a cousin to one of the shortlisted. The Black Bottle Island Smoke, 46%, 0.3 ABV, I should say. The bar that I'm just going to be finishing working up in this week, they have a house blend, basically, because we have like deals and stuff like that. And their house blend is Black Bottle. And we ended up getting in the Alchemy series, I think they're called. There's 2 more that have just been released, but we got the 1 and 2, the red and the, let's say the light blue, because there's a dark blue now. And the red is perfectly lovely stuff, but the Island Smoke, I was very pleasantly surprised, and I've been singing its praises quite a bit recently to a few people in the comments. And I think a couple of people might have actually pulled the trigger off of that recommendation. So you're welcome, Distell. But also, yeah, it comes from the heart. Really fantastic liquid. Now, I get why it might not have been put forward, because it is ultimately a limited release. However, we are doing these yearly. And I think it would be a good census, personally, if we did allow... I mean, there's nothing saying that we don't allow limited releases in there, because I think it's a good snapshot of like, oh, that was really good that year, and now it's gone. I get the argument for why that might not be fair, but an argument can also be made as to why it should be celebrated. Next, the best blended malt whisky 2022. I think we all have a bet on who's going to win this, and we're all probably right. But I'm starting off with the Campbelltown Lock Blended Malt, 46% ABV. Springbank Malt blend. Love it. It's fantastic stuff. Done a review on it. I was lucky enough to get my hands on a bottle before everyone went, oh shit, that's Springbank, and nabbed it and started sticking it on bloody auction. Next up, the Johnnie Walker Green Label 15-year-old. My history with Johnnie Walker in general, fairly spotty. I think it's safe to say. I mean, I've covered all the Johnnie Walkers because it's kind of a rite of passage. If you're reviewing whiskey on the internet, you kind of just have to do that. I do actually want to give the Blonde a go at some point, not because I necessarily think it's going to be an amazing product per se, but I am curious. I am genuinely curious about that one. Because it kind of falls into the same kind of pattern as like the Glenmorangie X. They're like blending whiskey. I've been interested to see kind of how that stands up as well. It's usually a warning sign if they're saying it's made for mixing. That never normally goes down well, but, you know, curious to try all the same. And then thirdly, I put forward another one of my own nominations, and the one I put forward was the Scallywag, just the plain old Scallywag Speyside blend. I think it's an underrated classic. The Scallywag, I think it's a fantastic malt blend, and I think more people should be celebrating it. We did get the Timorous Beastie 13-year-old Meet the Beast in there. Part of the reason I think why it was in there was because it's a higher ABV, as much as anything else. I haven't tried it. I've heard so many amazing things. I haven't tried it, so I don't want to comment on it. But if it's anything like the other Dougie Langs, then it's no wonder that it came forward, because I'm a big fan. Oh no, I've just clicked off of the off of the email. I don't even know how I did that. Hang on, I'm back on. Let me just do some scrolling. This is all full of bloopers, as Ralphie would no doubt say. Here we are. I found myself in a chair in the freezing cold. I'm not wearing this jacket for effect, by the way. I'm fucking freezing. I didn't put the heating on. Category 4, the best non-malt whiskey of 2022. and I put forward the Loch Lomond Single Grain Peated. Now then, I've tried this a couple of times in a bar. Holy shit, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I know straight away it is technically... Well, it's not technically a single malt, because it's not, but it's a single malt that's done in a coffee grain, so it can't be called a single malt because of the still. Did I just say coffee grain then? I did. Column still. Jesus. So that's why it has to be, because there's no... Because of how rigid the categories are, it's like, well, it doesn't fit this one, so by default it has to go in this one, but it doesn't really fit that either, but it's the best fit. It's a weird one. It's like, you can get a round peg in a square hole, it just doesn't quite fit properly. And then following up with that, the Wild Turkey 101, 50.5%. I was slow to the party on that one, finally got my hands on some, bloody lovely stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Been making a case quite recently about, like, why is it that just, like, you know, your bog standard bourbons and American whiskies are amazing stuff, and yet your bog standard, like, affordable Scotch, more often than not, is rocket fuel. We are starting to see a few that are fantastic, but it's slim pickings. Let's face it, compared to the myriad of stuff that you can get in kind of like bourbon American whiskies that are just amazing stuff. And then I did put forward my own entry for this one as well. Now, when I read this out, people are going to be like, oh, you were joking about this, and I'm not. I'm deadly serious about putting this one forward. But my third contender for this one was the Mellow Corn Kentucky Straight Corn Whiskey, 50% ABV. I get the feeling a lot of people treat this whiskey like a joke, or as kind of like a curiosity to try. It has a very dedicated fan base, and do you know what? It's very easy to say, oh, it's because it's cheap, and it's got a lurid yellow label, and it's kitschy. And whilst I do love those features about it, the liquid's just wonderful. I genuinely believe that the liquid is just fantastic. The fact that it is dirt cheap in America, that is what they would consider a bottom shelf liquor, and it's still fantastic, I think that says a lot about, like, you can make an affordable product that is also excellent. So yeah, that didn't get forward. Bit sad about that one, really. I was kind of going like, if there is one that does go forward through this, I would quite like that one to be that, because I think there's a discussion behind that that's really interesting. But next, category 5, the best distillery of 2022. So my first pick was Ben Romack. People might be a little bit surprised by that, Ben Romack. I've been making it a point to quietly just get to know Ben Romack more this year. I haven't been very shouty about it. Phil over at Whiskey Wednesday has been more shouty about how much I've been getting on with Ben Romack than I have been. Love the man. But yeah, I've just been like quietly chipping away at a few of their different expressions. I've given the 10 a go, delightful stuff. Given the 15 a go, delightful stuff. I've obviously given the Cara Gold a go, you might have heard. Wonderful stuff, the Cara, absolutely delightful. Ben Romack do fantastic work. Now, the only time I've really discussed Ben Romack on this channel outside of the Cara Gold is their redesign. I did a little cheeky reaction video. And yeah, do you know what? Designs be damned. Although actually, the design has really grown on me, I will say as much. The liquid that they're putting out is fantastic, and I think they're doing a lot of things in the right direction. Yeah, there's an argument at 43%. Again, Phil talks about this. Does it matter if what they're putting out at 43% is fantastic quality? They could put something out at 46% and it be, you know, they might have to cut a corner somewhere else. The liquid they're putting out at the minute is fantastic, and I think we need to stop being quite such a snob about 43%. I know there's the whole argument of it's neither meat nor fish. Well, I watch a lot of whiskey content, don't I? There's just sayings coming out of everywhere. But yeah, I don't think it's fair on Ben Romack at this point just to be like, oh, they're not 46%, therefore in the bin with them. And I do wonder if that's what's happened here. Because there is a theme, isn't there, for a lot of these. Next one put forward, White Peak. Brand new on the scene. I've tried a couple of their drams. I've reviewed one on their channel. The quality and the interest and the just character of the whiskey that they are putting out is really exciting. It's not trying to please everyone, and because of that, it's more engaging. In a heavily saturated market, the last thing you want to be is generic. You want to develop your own fan base. You want a spirit or a product or a bar, a crisp, a biscuit, whatever that stands out from the crowd. And they have taken that move, and it's a bold move, because there's a lot of money behind making a whiskey. You know, you've got a distillery, you've got to wait for the product to be ready. You're gambling a lot on this liquid being a hit. And it's been a hit. The gamble's paying off, and it's wonderful to see. And then lastly, I've put forward my own entry for Best Distillery of 2022, and it is the Glasgow Distillery Company. Asked me this time last year if I would have put them forward, it would have been no. And the answer would have been for the simple reason that everyone was talking about the 50cl bottles. Can't get past that. Now they're in 70s. And that little tweak has made all the difference, because the liquid was always fantastic. But it was one of those whiskies that everyone always overlooked, because there is a perception, rightly or wrongly, that with a 50cl format, you're not getting value for money. Now, if they'd released it at a 70cl at the time, would they have had to have put the price up to something so ludicrous that they would have turned everyone off? And would it have then looked like they were backtracking to cut the price down? Would it have cheapened the brand? Did they do the right thing? Was it a long-term strategy? Potentially, yeah. We don't know what their financial strategy was. It's assuming a lot to say that it was just born out of greed. It might have been born out of necessity. But now they've been able to make that transition, and I've had a chance to try some of their limited releases as well. We've tried the tequila cask. I haven't tried the cognac peated yet, but I've heard nothing but amazing things. But again, it's the fact that tequila casks at the minute are kind of our new toys to play with. There's something new and exciting and different. But yeah, fantastic liquids that I'm really getting on board with, and I am very excited to see what Glasgow does next. Category 6. The best new distillery of 2022. This is anything that's been founded in the last 10 years, basically. And the three that I put forward, Clydeside. Again, tried a couple of Clydeside expressions. I'm very lucky to live very close to a pub that is run by someone who adores their whiskies. And he will go to any lengths to get new and interesting and unusual stuff in. And his Facebook feed is always full of like new whiskies that they're getting in. And they're sort of a legend in Edinburgh. And I've mentioned them countless times. They've been featured on the channel countless times. Really should get Kev on at some point. But long and short, I've had a chance to try a couple of the Clydeside releases. Obviously, I've tried the inaugural, the first, or the initial. It's difficult to keep track with all the various names of like the first release. Still can't for the life of me tell you what the Lindor's initial release, CD something, it's a load of Roman numerals and it's just too difficult to remember. I don't think that was a good move. But anyway, by the by, that one. Clydeside, putting out a fantastic liquid. I didn't think I would connect with them. I have. Bloody good job, Clydeside. Glasgow, because of the previous category, there'll be no surprises. All the points that I made a few minutes ago stand for this as well, so we can move on past that. And lastly, White Peak, for all the reasons that I just talked about a few minutes ago. So we're seeing some similarities coming forward here, aren't we? So we can kind of just move on. But yeah, 3 brand new distilleries that are wonderful. A few people might be surprised to see that Lindor's is not on there. It's not. And maybe that's a discussion for another video, because I don't want to get sort of too into, you know, what didn't make the list, because that feels like dunking on them, and that's not fair on any of the distilleries that didn't make this list, per se. But there are reasons. Category 7, the Best Independent Bottler of 2022. And the nominations that I put forward are Cadenheads. That's it. Beginning and end. I just put Cadenheads. Was that a stupid political move? No. I believe in Cadenheads. I have so much love for so many independent bottlers at this point. It's difficult to pick just one or three, really. They all do such wonderful things and such different things. There can be inconsistency issues. There's always going to be something, you know? Are certain independent bottlers better than others? They all do very different things. That's the thing, and I know that sounds like a ludicrously diplomatic answer, but they do, and it's a true statement. Yeah, I just think Cadenheads holds a special place in my heart, and for the basic reason that they are not the first independent bottler that I've come across, like, not even close. I think that's actually Dougie Lang was the first indie that I really tried. It was a Glengoyne 9-year-old from the Single-Minded Expressions. I believe that was the first one. It's what made me fall in love with independent bottlers, Douglas Lang and Glengoyne, all in one dram. It really was a fantastic whiskey, and I miss it dearly. If I revisit it now, would I still love it? Who can tell? I'll just have to try and find a bottle, won't I? That could be tricky. But yeah, Cadenheads, I live in Edinburgh. You know, I nip into the Cadenhead shops every once in a while. I've got a few Cadenhead bottles kicking about. We've talked about them on the channel before. It's a strangely magical place. Is it a crime it didn't end up on the shortlist? I mean, the chat on the live would seem to think so, because this was a contentious issue. So, and I was just kind of sat there being like, saying nothing, I'm saying nothing. Because I heartily agreed with the folks that were like, yeah, that's not good. They're pulling out of European markets. I get that one. I do get that one. Am I employing a not in my backyard kind of an approach? I'd like to think not. I mean, if they pulled out of Edinburgh tomorrow, I'd be furious. In the same way that, like, I'm furious with Heineken for shafting the Caledonian Brewery, which, again, is just down the road from me. It's the last working brewery in Edinburgh. It's going to be gone this time next year, probably. It's going to be flats or knocked down, and it's a crying shame. Incidentally, if anyone watching this wants to form a brewing collective, get on that now and make an offer to Heineken, because we're about to lose that building, and it would be a shame. It really would be an absolute shame, because it's a part of the landscape, and it's also quite beautiful, actually. Quite a beautiful building. Completely nothing to do with Cadenheads, but a little local colour for you there. That was my list. You'll notice I've stopped at the independents. We've not gone any further than that. That seems to be everything that I have information on. So I don't know why I don't have the rest of the list. I don't know if my memory's like playing games with me or what. Maybe I've missed a section. I don't know. But anyway, let me know down below, what would your picks of each of the categories have been, if I haven't already mentioned them already. Anything particularly niche come out from there, do let me know. There's a couple that I've put forward as kind of like a pick as well for my own votes from the OSWAs. I am wary about doing 3 videos on this. I don't want the perception that I am milking it. But I thought this would be something a little interesting as kind of like an insider kind of take of like what I put forward. Now then, are you surprised with the names that didn't make it on the list? Have you spotted the ones that I'm talking about? Let me know down in the comments down below. Thumb this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and do join me on November the 5th, where we will be announcing what won, basically, which is going to be a very exciting night. I don't think I'll be in the stream. I've not been asked. I'll probably be working, to be fair, so I'll probably have to find out later on. But I'm very excited to see what comes out of it. For now, though, thank you very much for watching, and do join me next time, where I might be drinking something. Who knows?